So the Sixers lost again. This is pretty surprising as the Sixers have been the best team in the NBA for about a week or two now. They went on an 8 game win streak. They look unstoppable. And really, it was the duo between Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid which really propelled that. Tyrese Maxey, after the absence of Harden and after having more than a few years to, develop himself, has finally stepped up into the second star role with Embiid. Originally Jimmy, then we had Ben Simmons, then we had James Harden, and now it's Tyrese Maxey, which takes on, that secondary complementary star to Embiid, which works as their own entity. They've all worked differently. Jimmy was more of just, his own self, and they just worked together well. Also, that they had Ben Simmons to do all of that. Like Jimmy would do his own thing, and B would do their own thing, and it would just work. Then when you can score, and we're both deadly inside, so we could really do that. And when it was James Harden, it was I'm just gonna pass to you every time and facilitate the game for you. That was what Harden was to Embiid. And then really when you look at that situation, you look at completely different teammates. Now with Tyrese Maxey, we have a mix of a few of them. He's a scorer. He'll really put it on the floor, dribble, make his own shot, really be able to, make his own game without needing somebody. He can pass really well. And he just kind of become, like the go-to player for this team. Embiid plays his style, and Embiid needs to have some possessions off ball, just so he can rest, just so he doesn't get tired throughout the game, But with Maxey, we've noticed that he's on 150% always, and that's something that's great, when you have a teammate like Embiid, which Embiid has tendencies of sometimes in late of the games getting a bit tired, looking fatigued, but having this guy who's just 100% all the time, he does it well, and he can actually put it on the floor and really make a play for your team in crunch time with energy. It helps Embiid. But apart from that, the Sixers have looked great. Tobias Harris is looking really good this season. He's been just effective as crap. He's averaging 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists on 58% from the field. And if we've seen something, is that he can also hit the three, and he can steal the ball. He's averaging 1 steal and 35% from three. So when we look at a guy like, Tobias Harris this season, we just look at him as being extremely consistent and really putting it on the floor well for them. He's obviously not the guy who you want scoring all the points, but if you really need somebody in the end of the game who you can trust, Tobias Harris is always a good player. Another thing that happens with this team, and a new weapon which they just acquired, is Robert Covington. Rocco had 16 points. He didn't shoot well from three, but he had 6 rebounds, 3 being offensive. And in my opinion, seeing this switch where now the Sixers have real depth on their bench makes me very happy, as they finally built a 2-man team. It took them a while to get 2 stars without having to, put a bunch of stars together. But now they really have like 2 guys and a bunch of, complementary pieces. I want to say shout out to DeAnthony Melton. He shot great from 3. He was really hitting the shots. And honestly, when we see this game, it's just that the Philly is good, but the Celtics are better. Because Jayson Tatum this game went crazy. And he had 6 assists, 28 rebounds, and 29 points. Meanwhile, guys like Derek White were also going crazy, extremely efficient, 27 points. And it's just obvious that the Celtics work. The Celtics are not one of these teams which they flame out. They have a lot of ways to attack you. And them being the best offensive and defensive starting 5 based on, ratings, we could see that they're just good at everything. You're going to leave them open? Oh, they're going to make it. Even the center can make threes, right? Oh, you want to give them lanes to the rim? They can get to it. And honestly, this has caused them to be one of the premier teams in the league right now. I think they're the most winning team in the NBA. And just looking at how they've dominated the NBA with two losses, and makes me think just like are the Celtics gonna win their 18th banner in their next championship? Because they just look amazing. I know that it's very exciting for Celtics fans, which are very excited for this new team. But apart from health, I don't see something that could stop the Celtics. That's not, like maybe a guy who gets very tired, but that has to do with health. So if the Celtics stay like this all season, I don't think that there's a team which could beat them, in a 7-game series. With that being said, this game was great. It originally started with Boston just grabbing Philly and saying, I got something for you. But then Philly came right back at them. And after everything, the real decider of this game was that third quarter. I think Philly was up, and it became a thing of like, we need to score just more points, forget about everything else. And Boston managed to do that. They had 26 points to Philly 17, and in that fourth quarter, they beat them by 1 point. Not by 2 points, but it really just became a thing of that when you won that third quarter, you basically guaranteed you the game. For Philly, it wasn't a tough loss. It was 10 points. It wasn't some extreme blowout or something, too serious. But when we're being honest, it's just, it's sad to see, especially when you have, right, like players and teams which are, which were playing so well without James Harden, and now seeing them lose is kind of harsh, but it is what it is. Shout out to the Sixers. Shout out to the Boston Celtics. And what I do want to say about somebody is Jayson Tatum might be one of the greatest players of all time. I don't like to put these expectations on young kids or young players, but like Jayson Tatum, the way that he looks, he doesn't make the game hard for himself. He's used to being the main guy. He does everything. He rebounds, he scores, he assists, he blocks, he steals, he plays defense. And really his love and understanding for the game, meanwhile knowing how to be an effective star without, being extremely, involved with the offense, causes him to be a threat as one of the greatest players of all time. I think Jayson Tatum is amazing. And if we're being honest, we really need to appreciate him right now. He might win a championship this year, and if he does, then that will put him in the conversation with Giannis and Jokic as young guys who are really cementing their legacy right now and making themselves threats to be all-time greats, But apart from that, from this game, another person who I want to point out, is Jaylen Brown didn't play, which is impressive. Sam Hauser actually took the starting role. And when I tell you that they beat the best team in the NBA, Philly, which was, they were, when you're telling me that they beat the best team in the NBA and they beat them by 10 points without their second best player and their secondary scorer, it really alarms to the fact that this team played great. Another thing that happened with this team is that they didn't play Kristaps either. This was just Jayson Tatum, Drew Holiday, Al Horford, and Derek White, and the bench. And as we know, that's impressive. The Celtics did great. They played really well. And in my opinion, when we look at the Celtics, we have to start looking at one of the teams which is a real threat, to win the championship, up there with the Nuggets and up there with, teams that we normally put in those conversations. I just want to say this shout out to everyone. Shout out to those teams. They put on a great game. And if we're being 1,000% honest, we want more of these battles. The regular season has been like a playoff so far. It's been intense and amazing. And we could really see that the NBA is putting out a special product right now. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.